Well, I don't have a prepared speech either, because I wanted to listen to what everybody said today. It's sort of overwhelming for me to be here in a way, because I studied Saturday morning school at the Royal College of Music just across the road here, and of course my family collections with the Royal College and the Albert Hall go back a very long way. And one thing, of course, I remember about the Royal College in those days is that it was free. And this brings me, I think, to a really important point, because arts in education, whatever anybody may like to say, have had their funding reduced. And I believe this to be a great, great mistake. I'll give you an example of the Brit School, whose funding for over 16-year-olds was cut because a school leaving age, of course, is 16. And this is the school that produced, let's face it, Adele and Amy Winehouse. And now they've had their grants cut for the kids going from 16 to 18. It kind of is ludicrous. I'd like, however, to give you an example of where I think that music in education is particularly important. You're kind enough to mention the Music in Secondary Schools Trust, which my foundation helps fund. We in fact now have nearly 6,500 children in the scheme, and it's entirely owed to the extraordinary and inspirational example that Truda White did at Highbury Grove School, which I heard about. I think she started it in 2006. It was a school that was in special measures. It was really in a mess. And she decided that she'd use music in a school where over 50 languages were spoken, and the 50 languages were the mother tongue of many of the kids there. I think there were 1,300 kids there, that music would bring them together. And so every kid was given a free violin and a music lesson every week for 3 years. My brother Julian and I went to see the results of this, and not only was it extraordinary what they achieved through music and what they were doing, and to see so many people from kids from every conceivable background you could think of, all joining together to make music of all kinds. What was absolutely extraordinary, though, was the obvious way that it had really had incredible impact on, say, their grasp of maths, say, their grasp of languages, and all results have come up all across the board. And obviously the behaviour in the school completely changed, and it makes one wonder that if such a programme could be rolled out across the country, it would be a fantastic thing. We have it in 7 schools now, and I do agree hugely with Tony Hall, because I think what is going on is that there are a lot of people like me and others who really passionately believe in music in schools, but I think we have a lot of initiatives that are not really joined up, and I think the idea of a music czar would be something that would be quite wonderful. But it isn't just about funding, you know, so it's not me sitting here bashing the government about funding at a difficult time. It's about other things as well. It's about the attitude of teachers and about them feeling that they want to empower kids to see and perhaps enjoy the arts in the widest possible form. I'd like to give an example which has nothing to do with music at all. My great love is art and architecture outside of music. And every now and again I take myself away and I go around with my Nicholas Pevsner guidebooks and I look at churches and buildings. And I was in a Midland town about 3 years ago. I'm not going to name it because otherwise Bedlam will break up. But it was about 3 years ago, and I was looking, wanted to go and have a look at some wonderful windows by Edward Burne-Jones. A little plug for the Tate Gallery, fantastic exhibition coming up very shortly. I wanted to go and have a look at these windows, and I ended up in the town. It was in the square where a lot of kids were playing football, which I thought was unpromising, seeing that the windows were not guarded. So I went up to the church door, which, like most churches, was locked. But I noticed that in a couple of hours' time there was going to be a service, so I thought I'm going to stay, and I had a walk around the town. And eventually I found myself being followed by some kids, and they, you know, the usual thing. They said, "Can we have a selfie?" Or da 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 da. So I said, "I tell you what, I'm going to do a deal with you. I'll do a selfie with you, provided you come into the church with me when it's open, and we have a look at some windows." And they looked at me as if I was from a planet so far removed that anyway, so I made my deal. I got the kids in there, and they saw these windows in their local town church, and their eyes were on stalks. Luckily it was a fine summer evening, and the Burne-Jones glass glowed, and I wondered, why was it that nobody from within the church had told the school, why don't you bring your kids to have a look at these things? Why had nobody in the school gone to the church to say, bring the kids to see? What I'm only trying to say is that the arts on the widest level are vital to this country. The example I gave you about the Brit School, I mean, we know the Brit School produced Adele and Amy Winehouse. I mean, come on, it's not just actually about turning kids into musicians or turning them to go into theatre or whatever and this, that and the other. It's about empowering our kids, and we owe it to our kids that we do exactly that. Yeah.